Hello and welcome to the TV Enthusiast discussion of Hannibal. We call this segment Dinner with Hannibal, well, just because of the content of the show. But, we like to start things off just by saying what we ate tonight, adding a little bit of cannibalistic mystique to it. So I had something that tasted of chicken tonight. It was a curried chicken with rice, chicken with rice. You can take that however you will. I think maybe other kind of food products could be prepared that way.
I had something else also with the taste of chicken tonight. I had chicken flavored ramen with hot sauce, and
chicken flavored,
and and grilled cheese sandwiches.
So hot sauce. So that's because you're an eye zombie and you need
Yes, I'm an eye zombie. I need you.
You need the hot sauce to taste.
Yes, I can very much relate to that aspect of eye zombie.
Well, we're not here to talk about iZombie as much as we like to go off topic here. We're actually going to be talking about Hannibal. So today we are going to be talking about the 4th episode of season 3, Aperitivo.
Oh, yes.
Am I pronouncing that right? Aperitivo?
As far as I know, I'm no expert on Italian, so.
Do I just have to use really bad Italian cliche in there, like aperitivo?
It's me, Mario. I love the aperitivo.
Okay, so this episode, as you just said before we started recording,
that was a horribly racist start to this.
Yeah. Started with the Italian stereotypes right off the bat.
Yeah. Right off, yeah.
No, but seriously, this episode, as you said right before we started recording on this, is focuses on events before Will left for Italy. So this is kind of chronologically, this is the earliest point of season 3.
Yeah. It also brings the focus on the rest of the characters in the show, whereas previously we were mostly concerned with Hannibal and Bedelia and Will Graham and what they were doing.
So this time we got to see a bit about, we got to see some more of Jack. He was a big focus in this episode. But the kind of the kind of glue of this episode was Dr. Frederick Chilton, who has probably suffered almost more than anyone at the hands of Hannibal now.
Oh, yeah.
What was it, in season 1, I believe, that he lost most of his intestines or something, and had to, he has to, I think he has to wear a colostomy bag and walks with a cane, and he's all messed up in there. And then in season 2, he got set up for Hannibal's crimes and got shot in the face.
Yep, he got shot in the face.
It seemed it kind of left off like he had died or something, but he hadn't.
Yeah, the big surprise was
what he's like now.
I was kind of surprised to see him because I was under the assumption he was dead after season 2. But nope, he is still very much alive and well.
In pretty bad shape.
In pretty bad shape. It is Hannibal's will that he is alive, because Hannibal is not so sloppy as to let somebody live by mistake. Which we're very clear of. Everybody that has come into contact with Hannibal and survived is alive because it's Hannibal's will. But I like how they use Dr. Chilton as a framing device almost, to bring us around to these various characters, to see where they're at, what's going on with them, which was very clever, I thought. Because we see Chilton interacting with all these characters, talking to these characters.
The big thing for me was we got to kind of see this other side of this conversation that Will had in the 2nd episode of this season, where we thought he was talking to Abigail.
Yes.
And in fact, he was actually talking to Dr. Chilton. And so we get to kind of see this. It was really kind of cool to see that same conversation with some of the same things she said being said by him, but a little bit differently.
Yeah, that was really cool, I thought.
Yeah. So we got to see kind of a cool thing like that, and then he kind of basically was paying a visit to all these different victims of Hannibal. It's like Hannibal Anonymous.
Yeah.
He visited Jack, who seems to be kind of uninterested in all of this. He just doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. It's at least in this episode.
I think with Jack, it's the fact that his wife is dying, and I think he's more focused on that this episode than anything. Because I mean, I gotta think, put yourself in Jack's position. I'm sure Hannibal's out there. All this, he did you dirty. It's awful. But your wife, the person you love most in the world, is in the process of dying. What's going to be your priority at that moment?
But even more than that, he also was basically telling Will not to go after Hannibal.
Right, yeah.
So it seems like even beyond that he does not want to be involved in this anymore. It's like he took his hits and he's done.
I think he's telling Will not to go after Hannibal more so out of his concern for Will, and he knows that. And at this point, Jack knows that Will has this sort of unhealthy attachment to Hannibal, this unhealthy relationship with Hannibal, and I think that concerns Jack too.
We got to see this other kind of scene also involving Hannibal, Will, and Jack that was basically like if things had gone the way that Hannibal would have wanted them to go at the season 2 finale, instead of Jack showing up by himself and instigating a fight, it would have been Jack and Will and Hannibal all sitting down to dinner together, and Will holds down Jack and Hannibal slashes his throat.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see this kind of like other perspective, that this was something that was a possibility for Will that he actually considered,
that he actually considered. So it was cool to see that. Definitely.
But yeah, Chilton was really great as a framing device. It was just cool to see kind of like the different way he'd interact with people, the way he interacted with, Alana, and of course the big kind of like, the big thing I guess to talk about is Mason Verger here.
Yeah, Mason Verger.
Who I think largely because it's a new casting on him. His face is so messed up that it doesn't matter too terribly much.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't really notice the new casting too much. I mean, I noticed it because I was aware of it. But I mean, because he is so disfigured, and because his voice sounds exactly like the other actor, you know, like almost indistinguishable. That it I did like, I believe, the previous performer. Can't even think of his name right now for some reason. I've seen him in so much stuff, but I almost prefer the previous performer. He had kind of a weird glint in his eyes when he talked and stuff, and that's a little bit gone in this. But it doesn't matter too terribly much because he's so disfigured that you can't really kind of see everything. We got to see kind of like how he became his current form of disfigured instead of his at the end of season 2 disfigured, which was even worse. Yeah, which was even worse. Yeah, I know. I couldn't believe that. He had massive plastic surgery to try and reconstruct his face to the best possible. But there's only so much you can do with that, and it shows. I like how at the end of that sequence, when they're done working on him, he holds up the mirror and he says, "Good as new." I'm like, no.
There was a great and really well-paced scene at the beginning of the episode when it was Dr. Chilton and him talking. And he says, "I'll show you mine if you show me yours." And Chilton like at first he just kind of takes out a contact and you see his eyes like dead. Right. Then he kind of wipes off and you kind of see where the bullet wound entered. Right. And then he reaches into his mouth and basically pulls out his jaw. Yeah. And you see like yeah, I mean, Chilton doesn't look too terribly bad when you see him, but you just see like the extent of what that bullet did to him.
Right. It like totally destroyed the one side of his face. Is what it did. And that's what happened. I mean, obviously, that's getting off easy compared to what Verger got.
But then, of course, he's gotten an attack from Hannibal previously, or not from Hannibal, but from Gideon, I believe.
From
set off by Hannibal, where he lost a bunch of his intestine and other stuff like that. So this wasn't his first disfigurement.
No, it wasn't.
So yeah, it was. Oh God. And Verger's just kind of coming closer to matching what he looks like on the inside.
Pretty much. I mean, Verger himself is a sadistic psychopath.
It's his disfigurement is making him more like he is on the inside, and Chilton's disfigurement is changing the way he is on the inside.
Yes.
Kind of like a different way. Instead of matching his external to his dark interior, it's like his dark exterior is starting to change his interior.
I like Verger trying to claim to Alana that he's somehow now a born-again Christian or something. You know, as if that's fooling anybody.
I liked Alana's quote when she said that she grew up in a religious household, but what she took away from that wasn't religion.
Right. I really liked Alana's quote with that too. Definitely. It was nice to see Alana survived as well. She didn't get too bad. I mean, I think her legs are kind of messed up. But that's
it looks like her back is kind of messed up.
Her back is kind of messed up
down her legs. But like when we first saw her, she was like had this weird brace thing around her, and she was in a bed. And I'm like, man, she's just going to be really messed up. But then we saw after that, she's kind of able to walk with like a cane now.
Yeah, she walks with like a cane with like a limp. I mean, it's not too bad. So she came out of it relatively unscathed. Surprisingly, everybody did actually. You know, I mean, Jack, Will, and Alana came out of that last episode pretty well off. I thought. Mm-hmm. The final tally. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that they had all three characters survive that.
It seems kind of fitting to me, though, because it just shows that, you know, like you said, this is kind of Hannibal's will. That he, you know, he's toying with them still in a way, you know, like he sent off a letter to Jack.
Yeah, he sent off a letter, his condolences.
And we knew that was Hannibal's immediately because you could just the beautiful arrangement of the flowers and the cursive handwriting. It was like you knew at first sight who that was from.
Yeah, you knew at first sight who that was from.
It's just it's so, you know, beautifully shot again. We got to see basically like the origin of these horrendous injuries as they happened.
Yes.
Throughout this episode, we got to see this kind of X-ray of Alana as she was falling, and you see her spine basically crack. And
again, there was like a lot of beautiful shots in this episode. A lot of the way everything was framed. It's like, I mean, you gotta say it's gorgeous. It's typical Hannibal at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Hannibal.
I mean, so yeah, there was no lack of that in this episode. Also, I liked when Alana was talking to Mason Verger in this episode. She was talking about Hannibal, you know, where to find him, and she's like, "Well, Hannibal, he's a man of taste, you know, where you think a man of taste is gonna go."
His identity changes, but his tastes don't.
His identity changes, but his tastes. Oh yeah, he's going to go to Europe. He likes fine wine. He likes It's like
truffles and yeah.
truffles. It's like so. It's like she already knows where he went without knowing where he went. I thought that was cool, and she was passing that information off to Mason, to Verger, because I think Alana wants her revenge on Hannibal just as much as anybody else there does.
Yeah, she seems particularly darkened by what happened. She doesn't really seem to have much empathy for Will anymore. She's kind of just done with her previous self with it. So she seems almost the most darkened by the events of what happened before.
Yeah, she's darkened. I mean, especially when
Chilton too. But Chilton was already kind of verging on dark.
When Mason Verger like flat out lies to her face, says he's forgiven Hannibal. I mean, that cheesy line, and then she says, she gives that line, well, revenge is also biblical.
Yeah,
something like that.
I think she said something about like Old Testament revenge or something.
Yeah, Old Testament revenge. So you kind of see where she is at with this. She is in full-blown revenge mode. And then Verger's like grand plan for Hannibal. He's talking to his assistant. He's like, I want you to capture Hannibal, and because I want to eat him alive.
No, he wanted Hannibal to be eaten alive. He
wanted Hannibal to be eaten alive. That's right.
And then his assistant replies, "How do you want him prepared?"
Yeah.
This creepy big assistant guy who
creepy big
assistant. I just feel we're going to see prepared himself.
Yeah, I have a feeling too. Hannibal's not going down like that. So this sets the stage for what's probably going to be driving the plot for the rest of this half of the season. You were right in saying that there's going to be 2 plot lines this season because Brian Fuller, in that interview I referenced during the podcast, Brian Fuller said, the next few episodes are going to be the Italy plot, which said they're going to be as bloody and gory and wonderful as anything they've ever done. And they said after the
don't they hold back on Hannibal all the time?
I know, right?
It's not like they had some person whose joints were disfigured and reshaped into the shape of a human heart.
And I think he said Italy ends with episode 8, and then after episode 8 we get into the Red Dragon arc. He said,
okay.
Yeah. So I think you called it.
It seems to be the case because they had just, you see some of the castings they made, and it doesn't really seem to fit if they don't plan on making major use of it.
Right, exactly.
And this isn't like Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones will kind of cast somebody and have them barely in it in a season to just kind of establish. Hannibal doesn't really do that. They don't really spread themselves thin like Game of Thrones does.
Game of Thrones is like dealing with like hundreds of different characters at any given time.
Hannibal's a lot more focused.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it allows itself to pace really slow and deliberate and really kind of build on things in a psychological way that you couldn't do if you just kind of had all these loose plot ends going in and stuff. So we knew when, Dollarhide was cast, the Red Dragon, when we knew that was happening, we knew that Red Dragon was going to play a significant role in this season.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And there's just no place for that alongside Hannibal's vacation in Europe.
There's no place for that with what's happening right now, especially since Dollarhide is in America.
So we knew that was going to be the case to some extent. So I like that though. I think that this kind of a weird split, even though it seems a little bit less. It allows them to really kind of not push things out, you know. I think the first season of Hannibal had a little bit of padding in it, where they started getting a little bit episode of the week type stuff in there. And I think even the second season, there were a few episodes right towards the middle where it felt like they were kind of pushing it out. They were kind of padding it out.
If like a lot of the procedural stuff in the first season, a lot of the case of the week stuff was maybe the showrunners trying to make it more network friendly. In order,
maybe that's how they originally announced it, and then they were trying to make it that way, and then they just said, okay, we're just going to ease into the real show we want to make.
Yeah, right, because I mean they had to have some hook for NBC pick it up.
Yeah.
Somebody came to NBC, said, okay, a procedural about Hannibal Lecter, and NBC said, do it. And then and
then they started bleeding out the procedural elements.
Yeah, they started bleeding out the procedural. I remember Matt Malero from Adult Swim. He was talking about Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and he said the only reason they were able to sell it to Cartoon Network is they wanted to sell it to Cartoon Network as this bizarre cartoon, and Cartoon Network said, well, it has to have some kind of hook. And he said, okay, well, they're detectives and they solve crimes.
They like never have done once.
Yeah, I know.
I just saw an old episode. It's funny that you brought that up because I just saw an old episode, and like Frylock had said to like Meatwater saying, you're a detective, you're supposed to say, and I was like cracking up like, when has that ever been in the story?
It was like for the pilot, they were like detectives for like the pilot or something, supposedly. And he said he only did that to convince Cartoon Network to pick it up, and then they immediately just forgot about it. Yeah. So I kind of like have to wonder if like something like similar was the case with Hannibal and NBC.
Environment shows do that. Lost did that too, where Lost kind of like tricked audiences into watching a science fiction series.
Yes. This is going to be a drama
like, this isn't science fiction. This is a drama about survivors. It's like, okay. And survivors are encountering some weird supernatural force. Okay.
And now there's time travel involved. And maybe parallel universes.
Yeah, it was. I kind of admire it when shows do that. So it's almost like a strength that comes out of the detriment of the network system.
Right.
So there are faults to the network system. It's like I think was it Damon Lindelof and some other people have also mentioned that, you know, playing to commercial breaks is something that they actually enjoy doing, because it allows you to have these like constant cliffhangers throughout your like episode.
Right.
Because you're like basically like, oh, something's happening, it's building up, and oh god, it cut to black. Okay, I have to wait for the commercial to be over. And like if you try to do that like on an HBO series or something, it just wouldn't work because it would just cut to black and then pick up again.
Yeah.
But you can have these kind of little mini cliffhangers by actually having commercial breaks and stuff. And so while commercial breaks are seen as this huge detriment to the way network TV or, you know, basic cable TV is, there's actually some strengths that come from it. You know, sometimes a limitation can give you a certain strength. So with Hannibal, it's a little bit weird because I like that it transitioned out of that, because you can kind of feel the trickery behind the scenes.
Right.
And that's what I like about it. But like at this point, it doesn't feel like any of those limitations are still there at all. Like they're just completely gone, you know?
Oh yeah. like they became confident of what they wanted to do. And I don't think Brian Fuller, I mean, I keep mentioning this interview with Brian, they asked Brian Fuller, you know, they asked him, weren't you trying to like, you know, go for a broader, why didn't you try going for a broader audience or whatever? And he was like, well, we knew going in to Hannibal from season 1 that this wasn't going to be a broad audience show. You know, like, so he knew. I mean, he didn't have any delusions that this was going to be a #1 hit on television.
It should be, but he knew it wouldn't.
You know, right? He fully admitted it was not a broad audience show. It wasn't designed, at least by him, to appeal to a broad audience.
Mm-hmm.
He knew the story he wanted to tell, and he went out and told it, regardless of if anybody would watch it or not.
It's sad because it should be such a huge hit. When you look at
it should.
Like The Walking Dead and how, as a horror series, it was able to just become like the biggest show on TV. Like Hannibal should be higher than that, because in quality, if quality directly correlated to, popularity and success, Hannibal should be like the top show on TV.
And it's funny too, because I did expect Hannibal to be more successful than it was, with
just
how
because
highly rated.
Hannibal Lecter is such a popular character.
Hannibal Lecter is a popular character. The public does have this fascination with serial killers. Dexter was a very popular show. It just kind of baffles me.
It's kind of, we talked about it before, that like Hannibal has this weird position where I think people expect it to be this lesser version of something they already liked. And so they just automatically kind of tune off, even though they're hearing like, oh, everyone keeps saying it's amazing. But how amazing could it be? That kind of like, like I've already made up my mind, it can't be that good attitude, because they think their first reaction was to imagine that this was going to be a lesser experience than what they already got with the character.
Right.
And the irony, of course, is that this is a superior experience to what they got with the character before. This isn't just like good for TV. This is like better than movie.
Yeah, this is better than movie. Oh my God. And then they asked Brian Fuller, they asked him, would you be willing to make a Hannibal film? and then his answer was, he said actually my plan for season 4 would make a great psychological thriller as a film. And he said he'd love to do a Hannibal Lecter movie with this cast. And now I want to see that.
I feel like you could take any 2 episodes of Hannibal and edit them together, and that's your Hannibal film.
And that's your Hannibal film, yeah.
Deliberate, and it's brilliant, and yeah, it just has it all in it,
Definitely.
So, there's not too much else that happened in this episode that we haven't talked about. One thing was Jack's wife, Bella, finally passed away.
Yeah, we got closure on that plot line.
We can kind of reference that the one kind of Hannibal Lecter related thing to this was that in season 2, there was that really creepy, sad kind of moment where it looked like he was going to help her pass on. And he gave her the drug she needed to pass on. And then he immediately reversed that.
And then he immediately reversed her. Him, which was so evil of him,
Yeah, so cruel.
He would not let her die. And it was like, oh, damn, Hannibal, you're a bastard.
It was I remember watching that scene, and I was with my sister, and we were both watching it. And she was like, why would he do that? And I'm like, because he's fucking Satan.
Yeah,
exactly. He's the devil, That's
the devil, yeah.
That's who he is. Like, to him, all of these people are just his dolls, his toys, and he's playing with them. And what's the fun in watching one of them just pass off peacefully?
Right, exactly. No fun.
So yeah, it's we finally got a conclusion to her story. It was slow and fitting. I really liked the scene where it showed. I think it was Jack was having a memory of kissing her, and then it cut into him like kissing her forehead when she was dead.
Yeah,
it kind of pulled out, and it was a really beautiful shot.
The way it was done, it was like so amazing and so touching, and it's like I was just blown away by the whole thing, because it really made you the viewer feel and emphasize with Jack's sense of loss in a way that I think most other media doesn't. When you see somebody like on a TV show or a movie and they lose somebody you love, you think that's sad, that's awful. You don't really feel it. I think what they did there with this, they did a really effective job of making you feel that.
And I think a lot of the credit there goes to their handling of Bella as a character, because she hasn't had that much screen time. I mean, you take all her screen time she's had in the entire course of the season, and you're probably talking like 20 minutes or less.
Right.
He hasn't had much screen time at all, and yet she's such a definable character. She's not cliche at all. She's got like a real personality. She's got like her relationship with Jack feels very real and honest and genuine. It doesn't feel like it's falling onto these weird tropes. Like, it just feels very genuine.
Like, she's not a collection of tropes. Like, she's not a list of character traits somebody wrote out, which happens all too often when, you obviously got a show with bad writing, when all the characters just amount to tropes and traits, a list of traits somebody wrote on a piece of paper. That's why I get so frustrated sometimes when I read character bios for new upcoming series, and you'll see like she's sassy, no nonsense cop from the streets, who's also wise or some stupid. And it's like,
so you're reading all of the descriptions of these series like Frankenstein Code and Lucifer.
Yeah.
Because that's what all of them are. They're all partnered up with the sassy cop from the streets that is also wise. Like, that's every single partner.
Yeah. It's like, can you write people? People are more than just, adjectives. I mean, that's what I think a lot of these television writers don't get. And I think Hannibal gets that very much. I mean, Will Graham, Jack Crawford.
They're all complex and layered.
They're complex and layered. They're not just adjectives.
Yeah. I really liked pretty much all of the scenes with Bella in this. Her rough breathing was hard to sit through.
It was.
Hear her breath like rasping, and it was really hard to listen to. I love the scene where Jack was kind of like envisioning her holding up a dress, and it was actually somebody else holding up it was I believe Alana holding up a dress, basically for her funeral, for what she'd be buried in. And I got to look at the dress and saying, "You look beautiful in white," I
got to admit that whole scene kind of hit me harder than probably most, because after I recently lost my mother in September, and I went through that whole process, and so watching Hannibal, watching Jack go through the same process, it kind of it kind of hit me deeper than most, and especially the way they presented it, which to me felt like very real and very honest, and I thought that was so awesome. I thought, that's great. Like, they get it.
Well, and it was interesting how they used that as kind of like what could be a future motivation for Jack actually getting involved in all of this. And that when he receives those flowers from Hannibal, which, Hannibal left a kind of a heartfelt note, but it was too beautiful and too perfect in the presentation. And in the way they put that into the scene is without even directly saying it. And they never directly said it. It was like this one thing marring what, was this beautiful last moment,
Right.
So it was like Jack was having this last moment, and it's like, okay, everything's, he's sad, and he's got this loss to deal with, and he's at a funeral, and it's just emotional. But everything's kind of as it should be, and there's no like Westboro Baptist Church outside. There's nothing to mar it, to really just kind of set him off. And then he sees this letter and this card, and it's not even like a taunting card. there's nothing like nasty being said. It's not like a bad flower arrangement.
No, it was like
there's nothing real negative so much in.
It was my condolences. That's what it said.
But it marred it for Jack. You could see that marred the experience or the moment for Jack.
Yeah, it did.
And I thought it was really interesting the way that happened, because you could see that is the linchpin of what will change Jack's position.
That's why
obviously Jack's going to save Will, but there's got to be more to it than that.
That's why Jack's in Italy, I think.
Yeah.
In the previous episode.
He's there for Will, but he's also there for Hannibal.
Yeah.
And even if he doesn't say he is, that doesn't mean that he's not, It's the kind of moment that defined that, because you really throughout the episode before that, you kind of think, okay, Jack's moved on. He doesn't want any part of this. His wife dies, and you're like, okay, well, now he'd have a reason to go because his wife's gone now, and so he doesn't have to stay there for her. But, you really see the kind of the maturity in his decision to moving on. Then he sees those flowers. And you can kind of see what I like about it is that these kind of moments are cliche and overdone in movies and stuff all the time, but they didn't do it in a cliche and overdone way. He didn't see it and get angry and furious. Like,
he didn't go like,
it kind of marred the scene for him, and it just it was like this unpleasantness that kind of just seeped in, and and even still after that, it's like he hadn't decided to leave. It's almost more like that made Will's decision for him, even though Jack was asking the opposite of Will,
Yeah, I agree. But this show never does anything in a cliche manner,
Yeah. So, that pretty much takes us to the end of the episode. We have 9 episodes left now. 9 episodes left, perhaps, of the series as a whole. Unfortunately, things we've been starting to hear about the negotiations on it is that there are some issues related to the Amazon deal, where Netflix is not going to sign on for this because of the Amazon deal, and that's kind of limiting the possibilities down. And maybe the German financiers won't pitch in, because part of the reason why they were so willing to pay for a big chunk of it before was because of the NBC deal. So there's kind of all of these things, these factors now weighing down, where I think the last time Brian Forrest said it's like a 50-50 shot now if they can continue this on,
Right.
And so, I'm desperately hoping this is picked up. If you don't watch Hannibal and you're watching this, fucking watch Hannibal. Seriously, just watch it.
Just watch it.
Yeah, don't put it off. Just watch it. Watch all of it. Watch the first 2 seasons, then hop on. I believe it's on Hulu now, finally, the 3rd season stuff. So hop on Hulu, watch that.
Yeah, they sure waited long enough for that, didn't they?
Yeah. Hop on and do it, because this is, every so often you have a show that nobody's watching that's just amazing. And then people kind of have this reaction like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll just watch it sometime later. It's like, well, sometime later is too late for the show.
Yeah.
The show's gone sometime later. So yeah, you'll be able to watch what was already there, but you're not going to be able to watch what would come next.
Yeah.
And this is a show that is too good for that fate.
I wanted a glorious 6-season show like Brian Fuller intended. And I'm sad that we're probably not going to get that.
Now, with all that said, I can't be mad at NBC for this situation. Because, NBC actually carried this show for 3 seasons.
3 seasons is a lot longer than I expected it to live, actually.
Oh, yeah, big time. So I can't blame NBC for it. It's not getting great ratings. And even though it does have amazing critical reception, it doesn't get any awards. It doesn't. So they can't just go Emmy Award nominate or any Emmy Award winning Hannibal. They can't do that because it doesn't get any nominations.
No.
So for some reason that makes absolutely no sense at all, because all the critic response is basically saying it should. But it's just a sad situation that Hannibal's in, and people should be watching it. And it always frustrates me when I try to bring it up to people and they just seem to kind of like, throw it over their shoulder, like, it's not a big deal or something. And I just have this feeling that sometime, like years down the line, this show will have been canceled after this season, and we will not have gotten our fourth season. We will not have gotten our fifth season. We will not have gotten our sixth season. That could have been amazing on this. The deals with Amazon will expire. This show's going to pop up on Netflix. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you're going to hear people talking about how amazing Hannibal is.
Right.
And it's going to piss me off so much. Because it's like, you fucker should have been watching this when it was on. Yeah. And we would have had more.
We would have had more. Don't talk to me about how amazing Hannibal is. I don't want to hear it from you.
Yeah. It's so depressing, and I hope that this gets the fourth season, fifth season, sixth season that it deserves.
I hope so too.
I desperately hope so, because Brian Fuller, always an amazing showrunner. He's not made a single thing that I've disliked, and yet this is like above and beyond anything he's ever done before. This is like him at peak, this is amazing television. This is like Buffy at its best. This is like, Lost at its peak. This is the kind of thing that like you see once in a lifetime on TV, and it will never be replicated. They're not going to get something that feels like Buffy when Buffy was at its best again. You're not going to get that again. You're not going to get something that feels like Lost when it was at its best again. You're not going to get that again. Well, just like that, you are never going to get a show that feels like this again.
No, you're not.
And that's really sad if it doesn't get to finish its run. So yeah, if you guys are not watching, if any of you have held off, which I don't know why you'd be watching a discussion of season 3, episode 4, if you hadn't. So I guess I'm just preaching to the choir here. But if by chance you see this and you have not watched it, watch Hannibal. Just watch it. Seasons 1 and 2 are on Amazon right now. If you have Amazon Prime, that's free. And I think everyone should have Amazon Prime, not because of the video, but just because of the 2-day shipping.
Exactly. For no other reason.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great deal. Get that. If not, then just sign up for like the free. I think they give you a 30-day free trial. Sign up, use it, watch all of Hannibal. It is some of the best TV you will ever watch. And that's pretty much all I have to say this week. So we'll be back next week to talk about episode 5 of season 3 of Hannibal. Let's see, what's the name of that episode? Next one is Contorno.
Okay.
Is the name of the next one. So join us next week when we discuss Contorno, episode 5 of season 3 of Hannibal. And that's pretty much it. So everybody, thank you for watching. Check out our website, TVEnthusiast.com, our podcast, The Weekly Set, which you can subscribe to on iTunes or pretty much any podcast manager. We do those once a week. So if it doesn't pop up on The Weekly Set, just try typing in TV Enthusiast. It might pop up on that. But yeah, it should be pretty easy to recognize once you do that. Check our main page, our stories. We're going to have a little bit of coverage going on with Comic-Con. Hopefully we should be able to get some more out of Comic-Con as far as possible interviews and stuff, but we're not sure on that yet. So yeah, thank you everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.